One thing that tends to be a major moneymaker is when we have awesome crossovers. Freddy versus Jason? Hey, that was totally awesome. Marvel versus Capcom? Hey, awesomeness on a video game front. 1990s we had Marvel versus DC. Whoever thought you would have saw those two companies going at it in the 90s? I didn't. And to a lesser extent we had DC versus Mortal Kombat. We can't win them all, Well, this brings up a question about our dear friends, the Transformers. Over the last few months, we've been having some pretty awesome crossovers. But I give my thoughts about what I personally would like to see in the next crossover. And the choices may actually shock you. My name is Jeff, aka Jeekers. Let's get ready to transform and roll out. Hey everybody. If you're a fan of Transformers, you will know that over the last, I think it's about a year and a half to maybe 2 years at the most, we've gotten 4 awesome mainline crossovers. It started off with Transformers Ectotron 1, and then we got, which I think was the most awesome, which was Gigawatt, which was the crossover with Back to the Future, following by Maverick, which was a crossover with Top Gun, and most recently we got Ultimate Expanse, which is a crossover with Marvel and basically their X-Men property. Now, I am aware that they also did Optimus Prime from Ghostbusters, but I don't recall actually seeing that, really being mass marketed. It may have been before. I can't recall when they did it, but it could have been before I started getting back into Transformers in 2016 with Combiner Wars. But these are the last year and a half to 2 years. These are the big crossovers, and from what I've heard, there's still Hasbro slash Takara Tomy or whatever you want to pronounce it. They're actually still planning more crossovers. I actually read an article recently that they are planning on possibly doing a crossover with the Dukes of Hazzard. I'm not going to get into the whole undercurrent of what people perceive that show to be. I never really watched it, so I can't really give my opinion of it, so I'm going to stay out of it. But personally, I've also read that people would like to see, A-Team, or Knight Rider. Personally, I would love to see a Knight Rider crossover or an A-Team crossover with the van, with Mr. T's van. That would be fucking awesome. But since those are pretty much widely known, desires that we, the fans of Transformers, have, I thought I would, throw my 2 cents, as it's called, into the hat and share what I would like to see as a crossover event. Now, let's take that off. Now, if you are familiar with these guys are called Battle Beasts. Now, if I read correctly, I think that these were also a popular Hasbro line that was, I can't recall who the Japanese company was. I think it could also been Takara Tomy, but I may be wrong. But if I remember correctly, Hasbro was a distributor for these figures back in the late 80s, I think it was. Now, when I say I want to see a crossover, this property and the next property, I'm not talking about just one figure. I would like to see actually 2 huge lines do a major crossover. And the first line that I'm going to talk about is these Battle Beasts. Now, if you're not familiar with Battle Beasts, basically, from what I can understand, because I was not really into them, my cousin Peter, he was actually into these more than I was, and this was back when Transformers Generation 1 was still going pretty strong. He had these, and I had my Transformers. The thing that really kind of linked these two properties together is, oddly enough, they also had rub signs. Now you can see on the little gorilla-like figure, there's a black square in between the two yellow squares. That's actually a rub sign. Now, from what I can remember, if I remember correctly, I think the rub signs were supposed to be like elemental symbols. It was basically done on like a paper, rock, scissors kind of format. Basically, this would beat that, that would beat this would beat that, yeah. But I would honestly love to see these two, Battle Beasts crossover with Transformers. I'm not sure how they could do it. A quick idea could be that maybe Megatron would want to bring them over because it could somehow disrupt the elements of Earth to produce lightning or something, and then they could harness the lightning to make Energon. That's just a rough idea. But when I would like to see these, I'm not sure if I'd want them to be the same size as I think the deluxe class of Transformers, maybe a Legends class, but make them just a little bit bigger and maybe with a little bit more articulation, because if I remember correctly, as you can see in these pictures, they were not really that articulated. I think the most was that their arms would move, but I don't think that their legs moved at all. And, I would love to see just a shit ton of these figures just be brought out for consumers to buy. Maybe a package of with 10 in them. And there'd be 5 or 6 different packages, of a total of 50 to 60 little characters, But I would love to see this line brought back, if not for a year, just maybe 2 or 3 months, just something to help, possibly bring back the feeling and vibe of the 80s, because we've been seeing a lot of stuff coming back that were, big in the 80s. We have He-Man. I think I've seen Ghostbusters, oddly enough. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, granted, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what they're showing is not the 80s version, it's a more recent incarnation. But there is definitely a desire among people to relive the 80s, or even the 90s. I think it would be pretty freaking cool to bring the Battle Beast back, and just for, a little crossover event. I'm not sure how, it could be done. If Hasbro still has a license, I'm pretty sure they could do it. I'm not sure who holds the license of these two properties I'm going to be talking about. But personally, I would not mind having, these little figures lined up on the same shelf with my Transformers. Have a portion of the Battle Beast be aligned with the Autobots, and the others be aligned with the Decepticons. But that's the first property. The second property, I'm not even sure if any of you really heard of. If you have heard of the product line Micro Machines, then you may know about, or the company Micro Machines, or whatever the fuck they're called. You may have heard of ZBots. Now, my cousin Mike, oh my god, I think he actually had the whole set of ZBots. He even had this huge motherfucking monster bot right here. It was like a little rolling base for the little ZBots. I can't recall what the whole lore of these characters are, but basically they're non-transforming, but they're basically like little robots. As you can see, it says Micro Machines. I don't think that this line is even, the license is still being used anymore. I think it's fallen into obscurity. But I remember my cousin Mike having these. And at this point, I was actually collecting Marvel, Toy Biz Marvel action figures. So I remember when me and my cousin Mike would play with these figures, I would have my Marvel X-Men figures facing off against his ZBots and everything. And the main Marvel figure I had at the time was Wolverine, with the I think it was Wolverine version 2, was the black and yellow and blue costume with the spring out blades. But I remember that we would have our figures just fight each other. And I think honestly this would be a good crossover also with Transformers, since they're both robotic in nature. But that's just me. I wish I could say more about it because I don't really recall that much about these. I just remember my cousin Mike. He had a shit ton of these, and I'm not sure what ever ended up happening to them. I'm pretty sure they got lost, and when they moved, they had to move several times during his youth and everything. So I'm pretty sure it got lost in the wayside, as I guess you could say. But I can imagine, once again, like the Battle Beast, having the smaller figures being sold in packs of 5 or 10, and that you could get a whole. They could literally pump out an entire set of these little figures, in a set of 5 or 6 packages or whatever. And for the story of this, I would like to see. Let's say that these were the ZBots were created by Megatron as an off to be a substitute of the Microbots. I think that's what they're called, or the battle masters or whatever they were called. From the lines back in like the early 2000s, where it was I can't recall what the cartoon was. I only saw it a couple times, but there was a cartoon that the Autobots and Decepticons were looking for the smaller figures, and when they would apparently like bond with these little figures, that these figures could then unlock powers of the Autobots or Decepticons. I can't recall what they were fucking called. Maybe Micromasters. I'm not sure, but maybe you could say that Megatron created the ZBots as a substitute for those figures because they were losing the war and gathering those little figures. So they created these things to help bolster their numbers and everything. But that's just what I thought, Overall, it's just a fantasy that I have. We all have lists of things we would love to see our favorite things do crossovers with. I remember when I was younger, I wanted to see Ninja Turtles do a crossover with like the Ghostbusters, or Power Rangers do. I think they actually did. I can't recall if they actually did or not though. But there was a show called Battleborgs or something like that. It was like a poor man's version of Power Rangers. But I think there is always a chance to, for profit if, they do crossovers and it's done correctly, It's as Paul Heyman once said, exploit the awesomeness or something like that and hide the weakness. If they market these crossovers correctly, they can make a shit ton of money and it'll garner a lot of attention for both properties. People who never played with Transformers that play with ZBots may be interested in Transformers, and people who collect Transformers who are like, what the fuck are ZBots? Via this crossover, they'd be like, hell, I would like to buy some ZBots now, or I would like to buy those Battle Beasts. But that's all I have to say. I wasn't actually planning on doing this episode until tomorrow. It's just I got done doing another video and I had some free time, so I figured I'd get this episode, uploaded and everything, and have a nice day off for Sunday, so I don't have to worry about anything. But as always, what do you guys think? What would you like to see as a possible crossover for Transformers? Would you like to see, like I showed the Battle Beast or ZBots? What would you like to see? Excuse me. And leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked what you watched, feel free to click on the like button, or if you're watching on Facebook, click on follow if I ever get it on Facebook, or if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to click on subscribe. it makes me feel good knowing that people like what I have to say. Yeah, but as always, this is Jeff, aka G Curse of Transformers Discussion, wishing you all a good day, and remember to transform and roll out.